International. Radio 1.
This is Nihal and you're listening to International Radio 1. I'm in Colombo, the capital of Sri Lanka. I'm here to check out all the new music that's currently coming out of Sri Lanka and delve into the clubbing scene here. But Colombo is no ordinary party city. Until last year there was a war in Sri Lanka between the Sri Lankan government and the Tamil Tigers. The Tamil Tigers, not to be confused with the Tamil people, were seen by many international governments as a terrorist organisation. They were defeated by the Sri Lankan army in May 2009, and now things are changing fast.
Music is something that we've used to bridge the differences. We've started signing up artists. There's a lot of opportunity. Sri Lanka can boom. They have not seen anything in ages now. I'm talking about 30 years.
My parents are from Sri Lanka and I know this place really well because I visit every year to see family, meet up with artists and just to do a spot of DJing as well while I'm here.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
This is the first time I've been back since hostilities ended. I wanted to find out what effect this new beginning had had on musicians, DJs, producers, club owners and the clubbers themselves.
Because of the war situation, and now since it's over, nightlife events are actually growing rapidly.
Parents, they used to always not let the kids go out at night.
Every weekend, there are so many parties going on, beach parties and all those things, yeah.
The social party life here is booming.
BBC Radio 1 Stories.
Hip-hop is massive in Sri Lanka, so I decided to visit one of the best MCs in town, Krishan, in his new studio. On the drive there, Krishan's mate Asaf helped me track down another Sri Lankan rapping legend, BK. BK looks like Biggie Smalls. He's a better looking version of Biggie Smalls. But he's a nice guy. He's a wicked guy, yeah. BK, it's Nihal. What's happening? I'm here, man. I'm here in Colombo. Yeah, I'm going to see Krishan now. Where are you? Yeah, so you're in the studio now. We're coming there. So we'll come and you can spit some flows, right? You can tell me how the hip-hop scene is. You're running it. Okay, we'll see you in a bit. BK to the fullest. With BK. Inked up. Where's the ink? Is all the ink inked up? Tattooed up? This might be on cue. It is on cue. It's Krishan.
Look at you.
What do you mean, look at you? You're so huge. Big Tamil warrior, you two, man. Warriors. How is the hip-hop scene here now?
Growing out, man. I mean, it's pretty big now. There's a whole lot of artists here.
Is there an appetite for it amongst young people? Like, they want to hear homegrown hip-hop? They want to hear Sri Lankan?
Yeah, now it's pretty much like that. But, when we started, it was not that way. When it started, they wanted to hear music which came from somewhere else. But now they want to listen to local artists. So there's a whole lot of albums being produced here.
If you're under 25 in Sri Lanka, you can't remember a time when your country wasn't in conflict. Most of the fighting was in the north of the country, around the city of Jaffna. The war effectively ended when the Sri Lankan army killed the leader of the Tamil Tigers. Colombo, where the majority of the people are Sinhalese, has also had its fair share of bombs and suicide bombers.
Hello, a military official in Sri Lanka says 2 Tamil Tiger rebel planes have attacked the Sri Lankan capital Colombo.
When I was in Colombo a few years ago, I experienced the war firsthand when the Tamil Tigers launched an air attack on the city,
Dropping a bomb on a government tax office in the heart of the city.
my friends and I had to dive for cover as tracer bullets whizzed overhead.
A second rebel aircraft is reported to have crashed at Colombo's international airport.
And we could hear the drone of aircraft. It was a very, very scary experience. Krishan and BK started emceeing during the war. They're both Tamil, but live in Colombo.
Yeah, it's all about being a Tamil boy, surviving in this whole hood. You know what I'm saying? When you're in J-Town, life is hard. You go through shit. I'm gonna tell you my story. J-Town, represent.
You did a track called J-Town Story, didn't you?
Yeah.
And J-Town Story was about Jaffna. It was about a young man in Jaffna.
It was a one-sided story, more or less, about a Jaffna boy and what he had to face because he was born in Jaffna. How he moved to the city and people didn't respect him because he was from Jaffna and he didn't get a job, he didn't get the opportunity, so he was basically helpless, and that's what the story says. And he wanted a fellow brother to show him love. That was the whole point. But that song touched loads of Sri Lankan Tamils' hearts. I mean, loads of people appreciated that song.
Life is nothing but a big hellhole. Family's life I've never known. Could you care just to help me?
So, the end of the war, what has it meant for young people up there?
New opportunities, basically new opportunities, because music is something that we've used to bridge the differences. And I mean, from the days we started, we always had trilingual music. I mean, we had Sinhalese rapping in Tamil at shows, even though they didn't know what it meant. They were rapping in Tamil and stuff like that. So that's how we basically used music to bridge the differences between different ethnic communities.
Krishan, in the UK, the perception is that young Tamil people have it very difficult here and have it much more difficult than Sinhalese young people, and that there is a great deal of oppression going on and persecution going on. What's your impression? Because you live here. For the Tamil community that lives in the UK, they have a different perspective of it.
What you say is true. And the Tamil community does go through a whole lot of hard time. And it's not really changed yet because, the war just ended late. So it's still changing. We just got to wait and see, though. Because, the political level in Sri Lanka is not really stable as well because it's still messed up.
Just because you're Tamil doesn't mean you're a terrorist or whatever. I mean, that needs to be clearly stated. But one good thing that we need to know is that there is no bloodshed anymore. Yeah. And basically we can use youth, instead of using them for arms and war and all that, we can use them for music, arts, drama, film, whatever. I mean, it's not easy as yet. It'll take some time. But there is a lot of opportunity. Sri Lanka can boom. There is a lot of opportunity.
Is that opportunity for all Sri Lankans, do you think?
Yeah, it is. But
that's in the hands of the Sri Lankans. We believe that's in the hands of the Sri Lankans. We need to put these differences aside. I mean, that's what we've been trying to do through music. We need to make sure that all Sri Lankans respect each other.
So, Krishan, you performed in Jaffna, is that right? 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And what was the reception like for you?
It was about 120,000 people, Nihal. That was the reception. I mean, they have not seen anything in ages, Nihal. I'm talking about 30 plus years. They have not had entertainment. I mean, rap music is new to them, but still they are very inviting towards the music that's coming out from Sri Lanka.
What's amazing is because since the end of the war, I've really wanted to find out, and not from Sinhalese Because I'm thinking to find out what the Tamil community are thinking, and you telling me that you've taken your music to Jaffna where you couldn't go. You couldn't go and do a concert for 150,000 people, right?
It's very true. And the second time I went by road, and it was a 12 to 14 hour journey, all these fellas backed off.
That shows how good friends you guys are. Talk about the crew sticking together. What kind of madness is that?
It was a very long journey, but it was a very good show.
Radio 1.
Krishan has a show on a new radio station, Kiss, which plays mainly rap and R&B, one of the many news stations exploding onto the airwaves in Sri Lanka right now. So these kind of stations, are they mostly for the Colombo?
Yeah, it's mainly the Colombo, yeah.
Hot summer nights right here on the K sessions. That's one track that never dies. A very big hi going out to DJ Nihal all the way from UK. Joining us on kiss898.com right here on the
As we drove back into the centre of town, we passed military checkpoints every 5 minutes. Even though the war was over, tensions were still high. We just got stopped by the police, but luckily, because Laura is sitting in the car with me, and she's white, they didn't really hassle us after that point. It's all good. Before the end of the war, were you worried every time you were stopped by police or stopped by army because of your name?
I've never had that problem, basically. I've never had the problem because my ID carries Colombo, birthplace is Colombo.
Right.
So, probably it would be different for a boy from Jaffna, probably. He'd be questioned a bit and things like that. There were loads of barricades and checkpoints and things like that, but now, there are less checkpoints, and they've cleared most of the barricades and things like that. And people don't move with fear now. Generally, they used to fear bombs and things like that those days, but now people don't worry about it. It's like in the past. So,
just in case you have no idea where Sri Lanka is, it's a small island, the jewel in the Indian Ocean they call it, off the south coast of India. This country is a beautiful country. It really is. You have to see it. Palm-fringed beaches, real hospitality, beautiful people, hustle and bustle of the city if you want it, hanging out on a beach, going to surf parties, dancing all night long, going down to Aragon Bay and surfing on some of the best waves in the world. You can do all that here. But for years, all of that was underneath the shadow of conflict. And that shadow's gone. Can you imagine how that must feel? Young and you want to hang out in Colombo in the days, then you will go to a shopping mall or a coffee shop. There are coffee shops all over Colombo, and there are now shopping malls all over Colombo as well, called such amazingly grandiose places as Majestic City or Liberty Plaza. But we're going to one now called Crescat, and Crescat is attached to a hotel called the Cinnamon Grand, where lots of luminaries such as Akon, Kelly Rowland, Jay Sean have stayed at. I've arranged to meet Asha, who's a graphic design student, and her friend Boran, who's working in the travel business, to talk about the party scene in Sri Lanka since the war.
The social party life here is pretty booming.
There are so many parties going on every weekend, like wherever, like beach parties and all those things, yeah.
So now every weekend there's almost a party everywhere, every time. We have a couple of clubs around Colombo, and we do a lot of parties in Mount, La Lagostin, all those beach areas.
Has it changed since the end of the war? Has it become more?
Well, yeah, it has actually got people to come out, and, it was just the safety factor that going out at night and, with the security checks and everything.
When the war was on, what was stopping people coming out? Was it just the police checks and the hassle, or was it that people were genuinely scared about bombing and suicide bombing and attacks?
The thing is, the parents, they used to always not let the kids go out at night. And when you go to a club, you come back home at like 5, 6 in the morning. It's like pointless going there and turning back at like 12 o'clock. It starts at that time, So it depends on the parents, really.
And the partying crowd, is it mostly drinking, or is there a drug scene? Are there differences?
And Hikka is basically like Amsterdam.
When you say Hikadua is like Amsterdam, you're talking it's a weed scene, marijuana scene?
Well, it goes on. I wouldn't say it's not going to go on. I mean, it goes on everywhere, right? It just happens illegally and, it takes place.
How big are those parties? To give an idea of how many people turn up to those parties, is it like 50, is it 100, is it 500, is it 1,000?
Huge. Depends. Now, we had Hikka Fest. It was huge. There was like about close to 500,000, 600,000 people coming in. Because it was a party over 3 days, maybe a week, because it starts from a drum festival and it goes on. It's like freedom of expression at a beach party.
Now you guys look kind of different. You look kind of emo, the skinny jeans, and it's a very kind of Western look that you have. Now I've been coming to Sri Lanka for years. I have tattoos. You don't see many people with tattoos. How are you treated because of the way you both dress?
I don't follow anyone's trends. This is basically who I am. I dress differently on weekdays because I need to keep my job. And on weekends, I unwind. I have a huge fetish for tattooing. It's just that sometimes it's a bit too expensive to get my whole body tattooed, but I have plans to cover it up. A lot of people in Sri Lanka tend to judge people. They don't see them for themselves and who they are inside of them. There are very few people that actually, respect them as a person and, okay, this person is, I respect who he is or who she is,
They judge you by the looks.
Exactly.
What are the different names for the different tribes that you have? Like in the UK, there'll be like hoodies and chavs, and there'll be, the emo kids. And
they have the whole posh kids.
The plastics, you get them.
Yeah, you get the plastics.
What's a plastic? Describe a plastic to me.
Describe a plastic. Well, it's like no regard for who the other person is,
Louis Vuitton handbag and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Fake one or a real one?
Fake one, probably fake one.
But life here is good. The party life is extremely good now.
Just texting Iraj, who's like the Timbaland and Dr. Dre of Sri Lanka. Really did bring a hip-hop sound and a Sinhalese and Tamil rap sound together, and he was one of the first to do that, and he did it really, really well. But as with most hip-hop heads, he's a nightmare to get hold of. So, alas, I haven't managed to get hold of him. But I shall track him down, do not worry about that. This is Nihal and you're listening to International Radio 1. Just been to Majestic City, which is a shopping mall, to find some traditional Sri Lankan music. We went to a place called Tirana Music Box, which is a place that I always go to in Colombo if I want to find really traditional music. You can get Sri Lankan instrumentals, whole albums dedicated purely to Sri Lankan drums. You can get Baila albums there, which is the folk music of Sri Lanka. And interestingly enough, this time I managed to get some hip-hop albums. Phil T, his name is. Phil, that's F-I-L-L, and he's on the front looking very, very tough indeed with some gold handcuffs and a huge chain that 50 Cent would be proud of. So it's all Sinhalese hip-hop, which is cool, featuring such stalwarts of the Sri Lankan hip-hop scene as Naughty Doggy and K-Mac, DJ Ring Razor. Back in Krishan and BK's studio, I heard about this huge explosion of talent in Sri Lanka.
We've been working with different bands. Myself and BK, we've started signing up artists, and Diatribe Entertainment formed. This place is still small, but it's going to be a big label. It's going to be a very big label.
So this is going to be the Rockefeller of Sri Lanka, right?
Definitely. Plus, we're not only restricting ourselves just to Tamil music, we're also producing Sinhalese music.
So you built this all yourself. You've got a wicked vocal booth. Look at that.
Yeah. We're still fixing the place.
One of a kind, only one for mess out that rhymes. When the track is almost done, let's rewind. You're witnessing the greatest since 1999. The shit is not about the paper, it's the feeling.
Krishan, now that the war is finished, some of the subjects that you talked about, like J-Town's story with the Tamil boy coming from Jaffna and being discriminated against, are you not really going to have that passion to rap about those subjects anymore, or is it still relevant, those kind of subjects?
As musicians, we will voice what we feel. And right now, we don't see talking about war would make any sense. We should look at empowering the youth with different themes, like HIV, like stuff like drugs. I mean, basically club tracks and love and stuff that are more relative to the youth of Sri Lanka. So that's what we're doing at the moment. This is our Sinhalese rapper from Dash Rap Entertainment. We were talking about
real rap music.
In the past, musicians had to be careful with their lyrics, although it's still not easy to say whatever you want. Krishan has had to invent a guerrilla-style character for this track to protect the identity of the rapper. It's a political song which criticised the process of the recent elections in Sri Lanka.
This is a character. It's a rabbit. We're calling this character Rap Rabbit. It's this animated character who's going to rap.
It sounds really heavy though. It doesn't sound like an animated rapper.
It is actually a rap rabbit.
See, so the idea is that by making him animated, it means that he can say what he wants and no one can trace it.
Also, we've signed boy bands onto the label. I know, it's new stuff. There's this Sinhalese boy band called Four, and we've signed them up, and we're also...
Let me guess, there are four of them. Yeah, okay. I guessed that.
Yeah, you guessed that, right?
Oh, no. This is a Sinhalese language boy band.
The track is still under construction.
And then we have another guy who's competing in a reality TV program, something very similar to the American Idol or X Factor. We have a local reality music show, and we have a contestant in that show who signed on to the label as well. So
Making moves. Making major moves.
So like, Nihal's going to drop a verse today, and we'll probably have it on the album as well.
Yeah, I'll drop a verse. I'll drop a verse. You just have to give me the beat, give me a piece of paper, give me 10 minutes, and we'll drop a verse. Beat better be slamming though. Better be a big beat. You know how we roll, right? You know how we roll. Eventually, we picked a beat, and I went into the vocal booth.
The other side of the pond is the Nihal, the rally brown, Sri Lanka just with the one. That I wave with the magic to make other rappers tragic. They don't feel the panic when I come through with the static. It's easy. That's why I step into the booth with no paper and pen, because other rappers are sleazy. They feel it because they can't get what I do. They think it's old and they think it's so old and I new. Way into the future, slash you, crash you, burn you, turn you into something else. Because you yearn to be me. This MC, this Rowdy Brown, this RB, this CMP, Tamil or Sinhalese.
As we left the studio, Asaf, Krishan's friend, drove me to an underground part in downtown Colombo. On the way, we talked about other types of music happening in Sri Lanka. Is it just kind of rap and R&B, or is there dance music as well? Is there drum and bass? What kind of...
Everything, basically everything. And there are niche groups for each and every segment.
So is there a drum and bass scene here?
Yeah, very much.
What about house music? Is there a house music scene?
Yeah.
How many people are making Sri Lankan house music?
We have a lot of local talents. There are people called Selectro. They do a lot of house music, local house music.
Really?
Yeah.
Love to hear that. And the scene, since the end of the war last summer, the scene is just growing and growing and growing.
Very much. Sri Lanka is booming. Big time.
heading out of Colombo, about 40 minutes out of Colombo, to the entertainment complex called Maharaja Entertainment. And in that complex there are 4 radio stations, YFM, which is Youth FM. So we're going there and we're going to meet Ramsey, who is the, I believe he's like controller of programming. He's probably got some grandiose title and he's going to show us all around. I'm just going into... Is it YFM studio, Ramsey?
This is the Yes FM YFM, all the studios right here.
And you have to take your shoes off to go into the studios because you can't have any outside dirt and dust in the studios. In the UK, no one worries about that. Yeah, I don't know. Who's on now?
Her name is Priscilla. She goes as Jodie. She's been with us for some time and then she got this job at a bank.
89.5 Yes FM, your number 1 hit music station.
Can you imagine a Radio 1 DJ saying their goodbyes after a show and going to work in a bank on a wet Wednesday afternoon?
Timberland right here on the show, TRS. Don't forget.
Okay, this is Shakti FM. And they predominantly cater to the Tamil audience. And right now we're targeting the east and the north because that's a fresh market for us.
And is it just a fresh market because before last summer you couldn't go there?
Yeah, exactly. We couldn't really promote the station there.
You couldn't go up there and do...
It was difficult
marketing.
for us to go and do things there. It was very difficult because of the restrictions.
YFM Saturday Hotbeat program එකත් එක්ක ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ. අපිත් එක්ක තව විශේෂ යාළුවෙක් ඉන්නවා.
So this is the youth station. The youngest baby. It's called YFM and it's a mix of Hindi, Sinhalese, Tamil and English. So they play anything and everything.
I walked into the studio to meet DJ Slash and a very interesting guy called Yashan, producer, hip-hop artist and one of the new breed of Sri Lankan pop stars. They were playing a track that was quite familiar to my ears. This is my album. This is my album. You have this album?
Yeah, I got. We play.
Wow.
Right, yeah.
And I'm rapping on this track.
Cool.
I'm rapping on this track. Oh.
This is you. Say for yourself. Take a hit when nobody wanna stay K. Gotta get up in the party when it's stay K. Gotta get up in the party when sipping Bacardi. I'm ahead of it, a bit of brim me. Twist up low.
They just played out a swear word. I swear in this track.
I'm Yashan, straight from SL, baby. YFM with the best.
Who's the most popular Sinhalese artist?
Chinti, Bhati, Santosh, Iraj.
And you make music as well?
Yeah, I make music. Yeah, it's mostly, R&B, hip-hop.
Yashan and other hip-hop artists in Sri Lanka have always listened to hip-hop from America. I have a theory that the Sri Lankans are naturally drawn towards hip-hop.
Jay Sean, very much. T.I., Drake.
Why them rather than Coldplay or the Foo Fighters?
That's a hard question to ask,
My theory is that Asian people, Indian, Sri Lankan, prefer hip-hop and R&B because they like to dance, they like to dress well, and guitar people, they just look a bit scruffy. And the reason is that hip-hop music and R&B is music to meet girls, it's music to party to. It's music, you have to be able to dance, you have to be able to move to it. Whereas guitar music, you just jump around.
My name's singer. Yeah, check this out, you gotta listen to it. Check this out.
Okay, so my theory was clearly fascinating to Yashan.
Hey, yo, bad baby. It's your boy Yashan. 2010. Hey. Come on, yeah, come on, hey. Okay.
So are you a pop star? Do you have girls going, ah, yes,
Yeah, sometimes like that,
So do you have videos?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
So people recognise you if you walk around on the street, if you go to MC or you go to, I don't know, Liberty Plaza or whatever, hang out in Adele, you have girls going, yeah,
recognize, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So you are allowed to play your own records on your own radio show?
Yes, I am allowed. Yeah.
And they own the label that you're signed to?
Yeah.
Is there any limit, or could you play 4 or 5 of your own songs?
No, there's no limit. Yeah.
So you can just use your radio show to promote your own music?
Yeah, a lot. I do that.
That just could not happen on BBC Radio 1. There is absolutely no way. Have you noticed the change in the music industry and young people wanting to create music and listen to music? Have you noticed the change since the war ended?
Yeah, a lot, yeah.
What's happened?
Like, we have a lot of concerts now. The enthusiasm in people, it's more now,
What was it like to make music with that shadow over you?
Yeah, when it's like that, it's always when we put on news, we always hear bomb blast here and bomb blast there and people got shot and all that. When we hear all that stuff, we can't concentrate on one thing. When you are a musician, when you are very sensitive, you can't take it. Anyways, the war is over, but the end is coming soon. You got me.
Oh, sure.
2012.
The end of the world? Oh man, I've got things to do.
I was kidding.
Can't be 2012 because the Olympics are in the UK 2012. Do it in 2013.
No, it's all about, living life. Enjoy it to the fullest until we die. Gotta stop worrying and start living. Enjoy life to the fullest. Track එක තමයි හුවේ අපිත් එක්ක ඉන්නවා BBC Radio 1 DJ Nihal අපිත් එක්ක ඉන්නවා. Nihal, big shout out goes to you, man.
International. Radio 1.
This is Nihal in Colombo, the capital city of Sri Lanka, looking at what's happened in the music and clubbing scene since the end of the war last year. It's been very tough for people here in Sri Lanka, but here in Colombo there is a young middle class who have money and who will go out and party, and you can go to the clubs on a Friday and a Saturday night and they will be packed full of the bright young things of Colombo. Think Beverly Hills 90210 supplanted to Colombo and you'll get an idea. They're all well dressed, they all turn up in cars, nice cars, or their drivers drop them off, and there is a lot of that here in Colombo. There is a huge gap between the rich and the poor here, as there is in virtually every part of the world. But you can go to tiny villages and people will have mobile phones. And there are 3G networks all over Sri Lanka. But those people who have, PCs are normal. Computers have been part of everyday life here for a long time. So it's not new. There is a digital divide, of course. People that live in shacks do not have wireless internet connection. People are obsessed with Facebook here. So everybody asks you about Facebook. For a certain age, what's your Facebook ID? What are you on Facebook? I went to see the man who was running the coolest underground party of the night, Chemical Imbalance. It's being promoted by Hiran Lavani, who is just 19. He set up a new modelling agency for himself and his beautiful friends. He's running an events management company. He's organising electronica parties like this.
Sri Lanka.
And he's still finding time to do his A-levels. I thought it was like hip-hop and R&B. Is there an electronic scene here as well?
There is an underground electronic scene. It's actually growing pretty fast.
So if you're throwing a party like this, how many people do you think will turn up?
At our last event, we had roughly 225 people.
Quite underground still, right?
Yeah, we are targeting an underground scene. It is a growing scene, maybe a niche, but in the future, if you actually look at the possibilities, it would become a mass.
Are any people making Sri Lankan electronica music, or is it all borrowed from the West?
We do borrow from the West for the most part, but there are a handful of DJs who are actually coming out with their own tracks. Because if you actually look at it, the Italian producers, they go with their kind of music, the harmonicas and stuff like that. So it would be a wise decision to actually make Sri Lankan beats with Western techno.
And Indian electronica is doing that a lot. Medieval pundits and Jalebi Cartel, there are all these guys in India that are mixing it. If you sample it, you can use it. Okay, cool, yeah. And do your parents know that you're doing all this other stuff on the side?
Yeah.
And they approve?
They approve of it. They actually encourage it also.
Are they into the electronic scene then?
No, not really. That's into the old rock scene, Pink Floyd, stuff like that.
And would you describe yourself as part of the kind of rich kids scene in Colombo?
Not necessarily. I still travel by bus when I have to.
But do you have a driver if you need?
Not right now, but I did. Now I can just drive myself around, so.
It's important to set this new party scene in the context of the experience of growing up in Sri Lanka. Most young Sri Lankans still live with their parents until they get married. Hiran.
Generally, that's what happens, but I have a couple of friends of mine, like the guy back there, who actually did decide to leave and live on his own at the age of around 20 maybe.
But is that unusual?
Right now, everything's changing. It's becoming more open.
What about dating? Is that acceptable?
Certain people who actually are from traditional backgrounds would have a problem with that, but still some people do it in hiding. They don't like to come out.
How many people have arranged marriages? Because Sri Lankans don't tend to have many arranged marriages, not like Pakistanis and Indians.
Yeah, we are changing actually pretty fast. I would say maybe 60% are non-arranged and just 40% are arranged marriages, because there are a lot of people in the villages who, you don't say anything. It's the village chief who makes the rules around there, so.
I'm here on a long strip of sun-parched land. There are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families here with small children. This is also, though, the place where courting couples, to use an old-school term, come to hang out away from the prying eyes of their parents. So you'll see in the week, certainly at dusk time, which is the time it's at right now, lots of young couples daring to hold hands. And they're often from the more working class background. And all of it against the crashing backdrop of the Indian Ocean coming in on the Gore-Face beach. It's not the same for girls and boys in Sri Lanka. Girls have to be careful about dating openly. When I started dating my now wife, we couldn't hold hands in public in Sri Lanka. I spoke to the model Sarmindri and her boyfriend. How difficult is it for you as a young woman to come out and party? To tell your parents that you're coming out and party?
It's very hard. My parents are abroad, so they get very protective because they're not here to look over, what's going on, what time are you coming home? So they keep calling all the time, so I can't party till 4, 5 in the morning unless I don't tell them.
Do women get hassled a lot by men here?
It happens, guys grabbing you from here and there and stuff. People would, grab your ass and stuff.
So people would just randomly grab your backside?
Yes.
Okay.
It's happened.
And how do you react to that when that happens?
I would be in shock, but I would just turn and be like, oh my God.
Have you ever had to give a guy a slap in a club?
I would love to. I would love to, yeah.
How much does it cost to get into a club here?
Girls get in free anywhere.
Yeah, that's sexist.
Yeah, so
Wow. I'm going to buy a sari.
Yeah, I know.
Now I can get into a club for free tonight.
Once I was broken on my mind and I tried to cross-dress just to get into one.
Did it work?
Nope. I had facial hair, so I couldn't
You're a
take it off.
good-looking guy, but I bet you're an ugly woman. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, that's...
But you know, it's about $10 US.
$10, okay. The thing that I've noticed over the years coming here is the men like to drink. Like, drink to fall over.
Yeah,
they don't drink just to have a good time.
Yeah.
yes, there are a few drink. Even girls, like at clubs and stuff, I've seen them like fall flat on the floor and get drunk. Because some clubs, they have like tequila shots free for girls.
That makes a lot of sense, because my wife loves tequila shots. And now I figured out why, because she always got them free when she was in Colombo. Can you wear trainers in a club here?
Yeah. You can wear black shoes. I just don't think that you can wear thongs and go in there.
That's sandals, not thongs. Yeah, because that would be weird for a man to wear a thong and just that in a club. A mankini like Borat. That would be weird. No one wants to see that. Young people in Sri Lanka often have to live two lives, one that their parents see and one that their parents most definitely do not. Graphic student Asha.
I have really strict parents, and when I go to meet my relatives and all those things, I had to dress differently. Yeah, I got a tattoo over here, and my mom wanted me to remove it, so I had to remove it because, you know, my relatives would be like, you know, oh my God, what the hell is that kid doing?
So if you're out partying, do they know that you're out partying, or have you said you've gone somewhere else?
Going somewhere else.
What's the number one excuse? Where have you been?
Homework at my friend's place.
So you've been at your friend's place doing homework?
Yes.
That's the excuse when you go out clubbing, right? Okay. We've all used that excuse. We've all done.
The same excuse I'll be using on Sunday to go out.
Then Asha took what in Sri Lanka is still quite a risk and told me she was gay and she designs graphics for an underground gay magazine. What's it like for the young gay scene in Sri Lanka? Is it still very much underground?
More like it, but now it's kind of coming out, but it's still secretively, you know, we have like gay parties and stuff, but it's kind of not so out right now.
It's like society hasn't accepted them yet.
Yeah.
In Sri Lanka.
How difficult is it for you to come out? I mean, you can't tell anybody. You can't tell your parents. You can't tell your relatives.
Yeah, I obviously can't tell my parents, but my friends are cool. Even my college, like even my lecturers, they are so cool about it. So that's it, I think.
So you couldn't have a gay club? Like in London, there are gay clubs. In the UK, there are gay clubs.
I don't think that would be permitted here.
No,
Not yet, anyway.
Illegal, anyways, in Sri Lanka.
And in Sri Lanka, it's such a small country. When I turn around, there might be someone I know.
It's but more like secretively, like not everyone knows. It's just the crowd who knows.
BBC Radio 1 stories.
Behind the scenes, behind the headlines.
In depth and in person.
This is Nihal and you're listening to International Radio 1. I went back to my hotel for something to eat before heading back out to another club. Not all music in Sri Lanka is cool yet. This is a Sri Lankan cover band, I think, doing a cover of a Boyzone or Westlife record, I think. There'll be another one in a minute, so don't worry. There we go, here we go. Here's Sri Lankan music at its very best and worst. We're going to a club called Silk, which is owned by a guy called Gihan Fernando, and he has opened and closed a lot of clubs here in Colombo. So whilst we've spoke to the clubbers, it'd be good to speak to a guy who actually owns clubs, how things have changed since the end of conflict. The area we're going to is an area called Maitland Crescent, which is near Independence Square, which I suppose is like Trafalgar Square, really, dedicated to Sri Lankan independence from the British. And there must be someone quite important around here because there are a lot of soldiers with guns on the road. The club is very, very cool. reminds me of a kind of New York VIP lounge. It's all those colours, those deep reds, and there's candles going on. It's just that kind of club that you can be discreet and indiscreet in. It's that kind of club. It's not that kind of big lasers and foam and, you know, head case, fabric, Ministry of Sound. It's not that.
Hi, my name is Gehan Fernando. We've been involved in this business for a long time now. Actually, 5 years ago, when the initial peace agreement was signed, we actually opened a nightclub which catered to 1,200 people, which was the biggest nightclub Sri Lanka has ever seen. It was called H2O.
Yes, of course, the mighty H2O, of course.
H2O,
yeah.
Which was hugely successful for the first 2 years, I would say. But then, political situation started to, take a nosedive, and then economy crashed, and it was difficult to sort of sustain something that big. At present, I operate 2 clubs in Colombo. One is called Silk, and I'm just opening a new jazz cafe above Silk, which is called Lemon. So we're going full ahead.
What's the Colombo party crowd like? What time do they come out? What are their favourite drinks? Is there trouble?
They go out anytime between 11:30 and 1 o'clock. You wouldn't see anybody here before that. So it's a very, very late crowd. Sometimes you do have a bit of trouble with them, but then that happens anywhere in the world. What do they like to drink? We're a very spirit-loving community in Sri Lanka. We love our scotches, we love our vodkas and so on. We make sure that we don't cater to anybody who's under 21, because there is a law in this country saying that you can't serve alcohol for anybody who's under 21.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know. So it's like America. Yeah. You can't get alcohol. So where does a 19-year-old go and get drunk? In Colombo?
Well, at the moment they go pretty much everywhere and get drunk. But there is a law that says you can't. Whether you practice the law or not is a different matter.
And now there's peace. Is it time for the return of a Sri Lankan super club? A Ministry of Sound for Sri Lanka? Is it about time now?
Not yet. Not yet. Well, we don't think so. No, I think it's going to take some time, because I believe there will be potential for a super club and lots of other venues of that nature when the local economy improves and when we have tourists coming in.
So that's interesting. So you feel that you almost need an international crowd to be able to support a big super club?
We would like to open more venues in other locations in Sri Lanka, beachside resorts in down south and so on. That's something we're looking at doing.
Kind of one last question. The police. How easy is it to deal with the police? Because I think you probably have problems with the authorities that we don't have in the UK. What kind of problems are those?
There are laws that not often are actually used that make this business very difficult. For example, there is no license to operate a nightclub in this country.
So does that mean the authorities can turn up and close you down?
Well, basically, I operate on a restaurant license.
Wow. So you can't set up a club unless you're willing to give someone a plate of chips?
So you can't go out to the tourist board and say, I'm opening a nightclub. You can go to the tourist board and say, I'm opening a restaurant. So I think these need to be relooked at. They need to be changed. With time, they need to be totally changed.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I hope to have you here next time and get you to play up here, actually.
Don't worry, I'm bringing my music next time. Trust me. I'm going to tear this place apart next time. Don't worry about that, Gehan.
No, I'm worried.
Musically tear it apart. Don't worry, not physically. Musically. Okay. You're listening to International Radio 1. I've managed to lure my producer into a tuk-tuk, which is a three-wheeler with a cab around it. This is like a lawnmower on wheels. They really couldn't care less. They have to fight hard like cab drivers do. And then it'll stop suddenly like that. And no belts, no seat belts. Jolting to a stop. And all the traffic, chaos, all the belching fumes out the back of a bus will come directly into you and coat you in a layer of, pollution, really. When I was in the club, I really noticed that none of the music they were playing was Sri Lankan. It seems a shame when there is so much new music going on, and that might be one of the biggest challenges for Sri Lankan musicians now. How to make sure that their music finds its way into clubs and onto radio stations and reaches a wider audience in Sri Lanka, but also abroad. Maybe it's about finding a Sri Lankan style that is unique but also commercial. In the past, some Sri Lankans have been reluctant to sound Sri Lankan. Ranga Desanaya is a musician who is different. He embraces his Sri Lankan roots. He also produced two of Sri Lanka's biggest stars, Bhartiya and Santosh. Since Bhartiya and Santosh came out, and they were the big pop stars, they were the ones that were on the billboards advertising Coca-Cola and mobile phones. Since they came out, how has it changed? Are there more and more young Sri Lankans choosing music as a career?
There is a huge demand now, here, and also competition going on right now, right? They choose music, I think they want to reach international. Very few people, I would say not even 10, reach international right now. We took one of the folk tune, which is very valuable to Sri Lanka, remixing one of the songs. And there was a huge argument going between the government side and we got into lots of problems because of that.
Did you say the government got involved?
Yeah, some sort of way. Because it belonged to the government, the rights belong to them. And we thought it was a nice tune, we can remix it. After it came out, it was like explosion. Everybody started talking about it, it was criticized. But it got popular because of that.
Track?
Siri Sangabodhi.
What happened?
But it got sorted, we apologized to them, we were new and we didn't know, what was going on, and they understood. And
you weren't allowed to release the track?
It was released after that.
How long ago was this, by the way?
For about 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So both of your parents are traditional musicians?
Well, my father, he was one of the legend, basically. He was a music director involved in many Sri Lankan movies. And in 1970s, 80s, he was one of the pioneer people who was rescuing Sri Lankan music from Indian invasion, 70s. Everything was copied from India. It was all translated to Sinhalese and sung in Indian tunes. So he was one of the guys who changed it.
And Krishan are also, as we've heard, still pushing for a Sri Lankan sound. What do you think Sri Lanka can export to the world in terms of music? What sound can Sri Lanka bring to the rest of the world that it doesn't have already?
We can export, obviously, ethnic vocals to percussions. Obviously, you can mix hip-hop with Canadian music. You can mix hip-hop with, Tamil music.
Krishan, Baila music, is that still popular here amongst young people?
Yeah, very much.
It's still sort of the biggest music in Sri Lanka.
It's like cricket.
Right, okay. Wow, that's pretty popular, man. That's pretty popular. So Baila is the traditional kind of folk music. It's like pop music, right?
It's not really Sri Lankan origin, right? It's obviously Portuguese music. So, but still, it's a part and parcel of Sri Lankan culture. There are these Baila battles as well, Baila musicians freestyle. There is Baila battles, and once at an award show, they wanted myself and BK to beatbox and two Baila people to battle. It was fun. It was a fusion. It was baila and hip-hop fusion.
Can you take baila, which is traditional Sri Lankan music, and can you make it into hip-hop? Can you make it into electronica? Can you do anything with that?
Yeah, obviously, most of the hip-hop tracks that come out are 4/4 beats, but baila is a 6/8, so...
You can actually put your flow into it. Like, you can rap on a baila beat. But making a 6/8 or 4/4 is...
What is a 6/8? How does a 6/8 sound? Wow! You're playing the tabla on the desk.
We can promote Sri Lanka, take our music out, export it to international markets, whatever that's unique about Sri Lanka. We're trying to take it out.
Gotta put it on the map.
Sri Lanka back on the map. That's what we're trying to do.
You know we do, baby. It's Krishan. That's right. You know we do, baby. Come on.
Iraj is the timberland of Sri Lankan music. Unfortunately, we never did track him down as he was DJing in Dubai when we were in Colombo. But tracks such as his remix of Ahankara Nagare make him one of the great exporters of the Sri Lankan sound around the world.
Drop the beat, man.
This has been such an amazing trip for me because for the first time in a generation, for as long as I can remember, I look into the eyes of the artists, the promoters, the DJs, the radio presenters, and I really genuinely can see hope that years of conflict are at an end and they're really looking forward to the future. The thing that cheered me up probably more than anything else was speaking to Krishan and him telling me that he had done a concert in Jaffna, which was a place people just couldn't go to, for 150,000 Tamil people who all came out to celebrate the fact that the war was over for them. And they just wanted to get back to a normal way of life. And that's incredible. Clubs are opening up. Sri Lankan artists are releasing up to 30 or 40 videos a month of new music, from hip-hop to dance to rock to R&B to straight-up pop to baila, which is Sri Lanka's local music. So much is going on here, and you can really feel that energy, you can really feel that positive vibe, and you can see it, as I said, in people's eyes.
Yeah, you know my style, you know how I get down. Yeah, Iraj, Sungi, Static K9. Hold up. And for the rest of y'all, don't even think about copying our style, cause can't nobody do it better. Keep running.
International Radio 1.
This has been International Radio 1 in Sri Lanka.
You can listen again to that show anytime by going to bbc.co.uk/Radio 1. I'm Nick Grimshaw and my show's up next, but first at 10 o'clock it's time for the latest news headlines from Newsbeat.
Digital,
FM,
online.
This is BBC Radio